part of our conversation today is alternatives. And I think a question for so many of our clients are, you know, I want to own. It doesn't always fit them. So what we hope to do today is to help you, arm you with some ammunition to make a deal. But one thing I wanted to visit with you a little bit about today was the alternatives of Eastern Boulder County. Boulder drives this huge market, but it's driven Louisville, it's driven Longmont, it's driven Lafayette, and it's also driving the other communities that are adjacent to Boulder County. Erie straddles the county, Dacono, Frederick, the I-25 corridor north of 7. It's becoming it's a pretty interesting option for you to consider as your clients will. They're already occupying homes there. Most of it has to do with the cost of living, cost of fuel, the nearness to Denver, the nearness to Boulder CU. There's a lot of interesting things other than the great big presentations that you hear, and I think sometimes we forget that people need options, and some of them like to have dogs in their backyard, and they don't want to live in a 5-story infill project. So I think Boulder County is bigger than just Boulder, but Boulder and the university drives everything. ConocoPhillips, being just down the street from Eastern Boulder County, is going to make everything in Eastern Boulder County even that much more of a potential investment. I'm going to really talk more about what I'm familiar with out in Eastern Boulder County, and that is the option more of the people who come to you and say, I want to rent or build rather than own. They want to own through building. They want to buy a property. They want to buy a lot in an industrial park, or and the problem out in our direction in Eastern Boulder County is there's a lack of product. So if you wanted to have a lot, you're going to have to pretty much take what's available. There are a lot of things as a realtor, as a consultant, or as a buyer that you need to be aware of that's different than when you're in the middle of Boulder, Denver, or Broomfield. The things that we deal with out there are encroachments from surveys that are old. Oftentimes they're development agreements with the communities that change rapidly. You may have an old development agreement that asks for things from your owner that they may not realize until they go to that town for a permit. There's undermining, coal mines galore. Louisville, Lafayette, Erie, Frederick. There's some unincorporated Weld County and Boulder County that you can develop in out there, but most of it has oil and gas issues, irrigation rights for ditches. If there's a ditch going through your property, it's an apparent easement, whether or not it's on the survey or not, it has a right-of-way. So there are things there that are different. And you as a professional need to be aware before you sign those folks up for a contract. You have plenty of time in your contract to do your due diligence. I think the panel today will be talking about the rent or buy scenario, which the buy scenario portion will also, it'll be the same for land in that you want to be aware of cash flow for your business. That person's going to have to put equity into, in our case, they buy the land and then they try to get a loan for the construction, and that'll be discussed a little bit later. The things that I see most prevalent is working under assumptions by realtors and even owners. They'll buy a piece of dirt, they see the neighbor and they think they can build just what he built. Well, it's not always true. that metal building may not be buildable anymore because there may be new guidelines within the town. So they need to go to the community, they need to go to that town planning department during your due diligence period to find out what they can and can't do. And that's your job as a professional to help them do that. And then they need to understand that it's not always the right way to go to hire the high-priced, how do I put this, architect. Sometimes you need to get someone who's worked within that community that knows how to get the process approved through that community. It's a little different than when you're dealing with an infill project in the city of Boulder. Owning, by developing, you create some sweat equity, which I think everybody assumes as they go through the process, and I think it's true. But the main thing is that they get what they want. They get to build what they need, the height, the overhead doors, the proper office, bathroom locations, things that they're not used to getting, they get to get because they get to dictate where it goes. And then there's the pride of the fact that I did it, that I think we see more than anything in new construction. I think the biggest positive for the people that we've dealt with as they own their own property is that they do have that feeling that I did it.